So this wheelbarrow has what's left of the chicken runs compost in it, and I'm going to hopefully be adding more compost from the old worm bin. I think the problem I'm going to have with a container is the sides are going to be too tall. And I'd like to create like a little pile. So because this has the lip on it, it actually casts a shadow. So then there's only a third of this container that's even getting the sun. Whereas if I take away the edging, the entire pile will get. I'm sure a couple of you are wondering why I'm even doing this in this space in the first place. And honestly, it's just because it keeps the chickens on the other side of the fence. They would be in this pile before you even know it. Okay, go gravity, I guess. So over here, this is the pile of compost, everything that came out of that container in here. You can see this container had holes drilled in it and a liner to prevent it from losing worms as a drain, but we didn't have a catchment system on this particular box and we weren't sure how well it was doing. So we decided we would use the contents of this to build that compost bin we did last week together, and just inoculate it with my bucket of worms. And initially that bucket of worms came from this container. So now what I'm doing is I'm leaving this pile of compost here in the sun. The sun theoretically will heat the soil up, and as it heats the soil, the worms will move further down because they want to be moist and cool. So then they'll end up in the bottom layer of compost. So I think you're supposed to rake it up from the sides and harvest off the top. So we're going to do that throughout the day, hopefully. But for now, we're actually going to turn our attention to these containers over here. In this little area here, I have 3 containers that can now be rotated into the system. Whatever was in there is now gone. The beans have all been pulled, and we can use these containers for their next planting. For that next planting, we're going to be planting peas. Now this container has got things growing in it. It's got a freesia as well as this impatient, which loves the shade. So I'm not quite sure yet. I might swap that out for a different container and keep that there. Right, so far we've looked at these containers here. We've got a plan of action going, cleaned up the eggplant, harvested those 2 chili plants. The basil is okay over here. The wheelbarrow itself doesn't need any work, but now we're moving on to this little section over here so that maybe we can start planting out these containers shortly. For now, there's not a lot I can do in these containers because I do want to backfill them before we plant them out. So I'm just actually going to go around and pull out any weeds that are poking up and neaten up around the bean plant so it's got space to grow. And these little bits and pieces that I'm pulling out now I will feed to the chickens. They will love this snack. This little bean plant is doing so well. I actually think I might have to put a stake in here now so that it's got something to grow up. but I haven't quite decided what the process will be on that. For now, it might just be a piece of bamboo, but that'll mean I have to move this container because I can't have the bamboo sticking out in the walkway. Right, we've got our walkway back. Things are weeded so it looks a little less messy at the moment. Now we can start looking at filling these containers, but first we need to skim and move our compost. As you can see, the sun is shifting, so I better work quickly, take this top layer, and hopefully we can move this piece of plastic over. Now I'm afraid all I'm doing is chasing this afternoon sun around. It's fine if that's what needs to be done, that's what needs to be done. While this all bakes up here in the sun, I'm going to wash my hands and have a cup of coffee. So I've shifted this compost pile one last time into the sun. We're going to let it sit there for a while longer, and we'll do a last harvest into the wheelbarrow. For now, however, I am turning my attention to these containers over here and these seeds. Okay, so new plan of action. I'm going to transplant this impatient into this container with the strawberry plant. That can stay there. Then I'll plant my seeds out using these two containers, but I will eventually shift them to a sunny position. But for now, let's just plant the seeds in. I'm going to start here. Okay. Okay. It'll be growing. What I have here are Oregon giant snow peas, and they're a dwarf variety, so that makes more sense to me to grow in the containers because they are already smaller, more compact plants, being dwarf varieties. Being a dwarf doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a small fruit. Some of the snow peas we've had here have been substantial. It just means that the plant itself is not going to be full-sized. So I'm just going to rake my soil loose here and shift around the mulch. I'm not worried if it gets mixed in at this point in time. Just want to loosen it up slightly for the seeds. So I think I'm going to do it in a triangle so that I've got two seeds here and one seed slightly further forward. I have pre-soaked these seeds. Now I do think I may have over-soaked them, but there is still the potential that they will sprout. So I'm going to put them in. There we go. May the odds be ever in your favor. These three I'm just going to stick in a row. Down the center, I might actually do 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. Just like that, our snow peas are planted. I hope they come up. I've never soaked peas before. I normally just poke them in the ground and hope for the best. Suppose much of the same thing here. So I'm going to plant our next set of pea seeds in this container here. But I am also going to add a bit of this compost off of our pile and our wheelbarrow into this container. I'm doing a 50-50 blend, 50 of the chicken compost, 50 of the worm compost. Right, since I am planning on planting the peas here, I want to give them a structure to climb. Okay, so now I haven't run any string around it. I'm not going to do that just yet. Let's see how many of these seeds come up and where we go from there. It's also going to be a bit of a deterrent for the cats digging in here. So I have also soaked these seeds. These are green feast peas. And I'm just going to gently poke a hole, pop in a seed, close it up. So I don't know if I mentioned it earlier. I did say this bean, however, does need a stake in the container just for safety's sake. So I'm going to put it in. But Duncan doesn't like the idea of having something here in the way in case somebody trips or falls and we accidentally poke out an eye. This one he'll be okay with because it's a large enough structure and it is tucked. So I think I may have to just move this container and put something else here and put this in a slightly less dangerous position. So this used to be the container that was standing over here. I've just pulled it across. It's cracked and broken this side, so that's the side I'm going to push towards the other containers because visually you won't really notice that as much. Right, so this is going to be my last harvest and I'm just going to go for it because the temperature has cooled down and the sun is setting. So I am running out of time, but unfortunately this is what winters are like. You do what you can when you can and while the weather's good. This is the worm bin we worked on building the last episode video. And now I just want to top up this food layer with that soil that we had. In here, I know for a fact there are worms, but we are just going to add that pile directly on top of this. So as you can see over here, we've got worms. We've got more. A couple of them. So the plan is that this will now be the new feeding box. This will take time for them to break down. And that's okay, because this is not a quick fix for the garden. It is definitely an investment of time and energy. Ugh. Scrubby things are disgusting, man. Right, so now that I've emptied the last little bit of that wormy compost into this bin, I'm going to close it up, and this worm bin will be set for a little while, and we will just feed it scraps as we go. But for the most part, this is now set up and sorted. I didn't manage to get everything done that I wanted to do today, but a little bit is better than nothing. So thanks for hanging out with me, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.